It was an emotional scene this afternoon here in Olympia as two former Hanford workers and their wives shared their stories with the Senate Committee of Commerce, Labor, and Sport today in Olympia. I'm here with Operations Director Troy McGregor with Columbia Basin Dive Rescue. Glenn, I'm on Glade Road just north of Cedar Road in rural Franklin County, where, as you can see, a good chunk of the roadway isn't here anymore, victim to the melted snow and ice runoff. Well, the driver in the white Subaru was finally stopped after a head-on collision with an SUV just behind me about a quarter mile down the freeway. He was heading southbound. Then it was my turn to put on the gear and get going on the stairs, which, as you can see, was an event in itself.
So 1,311 steps. You only got 1,300 more to go.
Slow and steady wins the race. If that looked hard, it's because it is hard. I'm exhausted right now. So come out tomorrow and Sunday, 10 to 4, Firehouse Coffee. Support a good cause and come out and support your local firefighters. Reporting in Kennewick, Rex Carlin, NBC Right Now. Description of the suspect: a Hispanic male, 5'6" to 5'7", wearing a gray hoodie, wearing a cloth over his face. Again, as you said, Morgan, a marijuana leaf on that cloth. And as far as we know right now, Pasco Police still looking for leads. If you have any information, call the Pasco Police Department. But for now, Morgan and Monty, back to you. From the top of the roadway, it looks just fine. Down underneath, though, hollowed out, making it extremely unsafe to drive on. The best way to learn about the local wine industry is to come out to the wineries themselves, learn their stories, and come out and taste these wines for yourself so you know what you like firsthand. And the new trial date is set for March 8th of next year, and you heard me correctly there, that's 2018. That would be, of course, unless the two sides come to an agreement out of court. Live in the studio, Rex Carlin, NBC Right Now. This is an absolute best case scenario, which would probably mean in reality severe hypothermia, probably death. So it's not even worth it to try it out here on the ice. Back to you guys.
Oh, my mom said a Christmas present would be renting a cello.
Listening to Gracie and Audrey talk on FaceTime sounds like two typical friends catching up. But there's nothing typical about their story.
We showed her a video of Audrey on Jennifer's Facebook wall. And I mean, it's crazy. I mean, because not just do they look alike, their voices are the same, their mannerisms are the same.
Gracie and Audrey are identical twins, which would explain their similarities from their smiles, their glasses, and even their plaid shirts they wore and didn't plan. But before last Friday, each had no idea the other existed.
I did not know I even had a sister at all.
Audrey and her parents live in Wausau, Wisconsin. Her mom wanted a man who works with parents and Chinese adoption agencies to track down her finding ad on his last trip to China, which is basically a lost and found clipping in Chinese newspapers for babies. While searching, he found this photo for the family and sent it to them on Monday.
Essentially from between Monday and Wednesday, we were able to locate the Rainsberries, and by Friday, everybody kind of knew.
As for the Rainsberries, they've had Gracie's finding ad for years, but they didn't realize that Audrey was right there, on the same page the whole time.
Okay.
What at first seemed like a normal Friday for Gracie Rainsberry ended with her reuniting with the other half she didn't even know she had.
I was very overwhelmed and I started to cry.
The Rainsberries say other families may have done it differently, but telling Gracie right away was the best way to handle the news.
You know, we've always been open with our kids, honest as much as we can be, and as much as we think that they can handle. And knowing Gracie, you know, we knew that she could handle this, and she needs to know, and she wants to know.
What's next for these families? They say hopefully a trip to reunite two little girls, two twins, two long-lost best friends.
In education news tonight, hundreds of thousands of people around the country are on edge as President Donald Trump's immigration stances could cause people in the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program to be in limbo. Rex Carlin brings us the story of a local family with big dreams facing an uncertain future.
No somos terroristas. Únicamente somos trabajadores. Somos trabajadores de campo y es todo.
The Cruz family left everything behind in Oaxaca, Mexico in search of a better life.
Empezamos a hacer la vida aquí en Maragua.
Crispin Cruz tells me he's been working in the fields around Mattawa for more than 13 years.
Alcanza a ver aquí unas personas con nuestro bote y nuestra lámpara. Andamos como luciérnagas por las noches, ¿verdad?
Pruning in the winter and picking in the summer and fall, harvesting cherries, apples, and asparagus.
Y yo tenía planes de hacer algo en México y regresar pronto, ¿verdad? Pero la vida cambió.
2 of Cruz's 4 kids were born in Mexico. The oldest, Edenice Cruz, is a sophomore at University of Washington in Seattle.
No es fácil seguir la universidad.
Edenice is an undocumented student, also known as a dreamer. She's one of 750,000 students protected under the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals immigration policy signed by former President Barack Obama in 2012. Among the many requirements, the child must have come to the United States before his or her 16th birthday. The Pew Research Center estimates as many as 1.7 million people might be eligible, but now the future of the policy is uncertain. During his campaign, President Trump announced he would eliminate DACA.
Muchas personas se van a perjudicar, ¿verdad? Van a perder muchos beneficios.
Like being able to work in the U.S. legally without fear of deportation.
El sueño de mi hija es ejercer una profesión, ¿verdad?
Edenice wants to be a nurse, and she stays motivated and focused on her goals with her dad's inspiration.
Y le digo, tú sigue luchando y sigue adelante, no te detengas, ¿verdad?
And Crispin says he also has a message for the new president.
Por favor, ¿verdad? Que deja a las personas buenas soñar.
He has hopes that there will be a solution not just for his daughter, but for all immigrants that come here in search of a better life.
Me gustaría que el presidente aprobara una ley que nos apoyara a nosotros, a toda la gente, pues que no tenga papeles.
With tears in his eyes and pride in his voice, he stays positive.
Es todo lo que se hace en la poda. Pero ni modo, si lo quita, ¿verdad? No hay de otra y seguir adelante, buscar nuevos horizontes, ¿verdad?
Those decision makers in Washington, D.C. are crossing the aisle to support Dreamers. The Bridge Act, co-sponsored by 8 Republicans and 8 Democrats in the House, including Republican Congressman Dan Newhouse of Sunnyside, aims to give people in the DACA program provisional protected presence in the U.S. for another 3 years, giving Congress time to come up with a permanent solution. An identical bipartisan bill has been introduced in the Senate by Republican Lindsey Graham of South Carolina. Reporting in the studio, Rex Carlin, NBC Right Now. Her lawyer says this is all about clearing her name. In its simplest form, this is a wrongful termination lawsuit, but it's a little trickier than that. The teacher at the center of all this is 58-year-old Elizabeth Andrews, who was hired this past July to be an English teacher at Davis High School, but was fired about 6 weeks later for what the district claims was breach of contract. Among other arguments Andrews and her lawyer Andrew McGee make in the lawsuit, they claim that nowhere in her hiring process was she notified of her obligation to take a drug test, and that even if she was notified, it would be illegal for the district to conduct pre-employment testing on a teacher.
The state is saying to you, if you want to have the opportunity to be employed by us, you have to give up a constitutional right.
McGee is referring to Article 1, Section 7 of the State of Washington Constitution that states, quote, "No person shall be disturbed in his private affairs without authority of the law." McGee is basing Andrews' case off a case from the fall of 2000, Robinson versus the City of Seattle, which ruled that only employees that genuinely impact public safety can be drug tested. That ruling included police officers, firefighters, and other public employees who carry a firearm. And again, this ruling only applied to people who work in the public sector, not private companies.
It lays out clearly in the opinion that the principle of our matter, the pre-employment drug screening, suspicionless drug screening, and the principle that it's your constitutional right to be free from those, applies exclusively to jobs, I'll put it this way, in the public sector.
I contacted Yakima School District. I wanted to see what their policy is on drug testing and see if they had any input on Elizabeth Andrews. The district said no comment, citing the pending lawsuit. Andrews declined to speak on camera, and she feels she has a pretty good reason not to. If she ever wants to apply for a teaching job again, she must disclose why she was fired from YSD. McGee says this has put a black mark on her name, and he adds this shouldn't have even happened in the first place.
Specifically, they referred to the job offer is what it amounts to. Well, when you read that, it says nothing about there being a pre-employment suspicionless drug screening.
NBC Right Now obtained copies of the documents in question, and nowhere in the intent to hire document or the employee contract does it mention anything about a drug test. We also have a copy of the termination letter written to Andrews from Yakima School District Superintendent Dr. Jack Irian, stating she hadn't met the pre-employment contingency requirements.
I remember him every day.
Every day. Every day the Wildman family remembers their son, their brother. James Wildman was taken too soon. 23-year-old Wildman and 25-year-old Dylan Bolt, both from Prosser, were killed January 7th near Natchez after a day of skiing when Wildman lost control of his truck and the pickup landed in the Natchez River. As two families grieved, James's other family was already hard at work. You see, James Wildman was a firefighter, and the West Benton Fire Department lost their brother too.
We all met at the department, and then a couple of us came with the idea, let's see if we can let his younger brother Ben, who looked up to him, climb in his honor.
The 26th annual Scott Firefighter Stair Climb, benefiting the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Firefighters from across the country and beyond come to Seattle's Columbia Center to climb up 69 floors, 1,356 steps. Participants raise money from donations leading up to the climb to donate to LLS. For 21-year-old Ben, it gave him something to focus on during a time of tragedy.
Kind of gave me something to work towards the last couple months.
James was the captain of our stair climb team this year. In fact, he was the only member going. So we got approval for Ben to go in his brother's honor, because this fire service is all about brotherhood. And then the LLS opened up a couple other positions so we can climb with him as a team. He doesn't climb alone. Brothers do everything together in the service.
So a Wildman would climb those stairs after all. Ben jumping into James's gear to make the trek up the stairs, and James would make the climb as well, sitting right there on Ben's helmet. And then it was time. Time for James's brothers to pay tribute to a man missed by so many, while raising money in an effort to save lives. And there he is, just under 24 minutes later at the top of the tower.
I definitely was not ready. Wasn't expecting it to be this hard.
He might not have been completely prepared to climb those stairs, but Ben and James's dad, Ted, says he's proud of how Ben has handled everything since James's accident.
You watch a kid grow up in front of your eyes, but it's only through snapshots in time that you really understand who they are. And he's grown so much just in the last 2 months.
And as he tries to catch his breath high above the city, Ben has one more thing to say.
Just want to say how great of a cause this is. It's blood cancer research. If you can donate, do it.
A great day in Seattle for the West Benton Fire Department, raising money to fight cancer while honoring their brother. West Richland police officer Eduardo Magana took the long road to graduation day, both metaphorically and literally.
He started from the lowest math classes, the lowest reading classes and writing classes.
He worked his way from those classes at Columbia Basin College, the ones that don't even count towards a degree, to Washington State University, where he earned his bachelor's degree in criminal justice, to December 10th in Arizona, where Eduardo, his wife Margarita, and their 1-year-old daughter Emma were visiting friends in Tucson, just a couple days before Eduardo was supposed to walk across the stage at Arizona State University in Tempe to receive his master's degree in criminology. The commencement ceremony was a long time coming for Eduardo, but it would have to wait.
It was a little disappointing, but after I found out that she was sick and she was in the hospital, kind of that went away, and I just started worrying about her.
Emma Magana was born with congenital diaphragmatic hernia, or CDH, a disease that can have a wide range of outcomes, but for Emma it meant a 2-month stay in the hospital, a feeding tube, and oxygen support, which she was finally able to get off of in May. Fast forward to December when Emma had to be rushed to the hospital in Tucson. She was diagnosed with a virus that prevented the Magana family from attending Eduardo's graduation ceremony. But missing the actual ceremony didn't mean Eduardo wouldn't get to walk across the stage. Not if Margarita had anything to say about it.
And I was like, he's going to miss his graduation. I was like, that's not fair. And so I started brainstorming, how can I get him to walk?
And there he was, Friday night in the Kennewick High School auditorium in front of dozens of friends and family. A surprise graduation organized by Margarita, who got Eduardo to the celebration by telling him her car wouldn't start. He was escorted to the stage by his mom, with his #1 fan in the front row.
I want to give you guys his story as far as how he got here.
Memories were shared, photos were taken, and Eduardo was given his diploma. Well, a diploma. They printed this one off the internet. His real one hasn't arrived in the mail yet. For Eduardo Magana, pursuing your goals is something he says he could pass down to his daughter.
It was something that I always wanted to do, to show her that everything is possible and anything if you really put your mind into it.
But as it turns out, 1-year-old Emma is setting an example for her father as well.
She's already overcome so much with her health issues and stuff like that, so I could only see her, making it big.
A long road to overcome, leading to a bright future